in. The newsroom was rebuilt, down to the trash. It wasn't green. Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford refused to rehearse together, not keys. A real phone call nearly exposed a source. During one tense sequence, Hoffman as Bernstein cold calls a potential source. The phone number shown on screen wasn't fake. It belonged to an actual office line. During one late-night screening for executives, the number rang for real. The crew froze. If anyone dialed it after the film's release, they risked harassing real people who had nothing to do with Watergate. Studio lawyers scrambled, threatening reshoots, but Pakula refused. Instead, he ordered subtle sound edits that made the digits hard to copy. Still, a few sharp-eyed viewers managed to piece it together and prank-called the number when the film hit theaters. The incident highlights how close all the president's men walked to reality. This wasn't just a dramatization. It brushed so near the truth, it almost risked blowing open real lives again. The phone scene captures desperation, but behind the scenes, it nearly caused chaos of its own. And before we move on, go ahead and like and subscribe, because these kinds of behind-the-scenes battles show just how fragile great movies really are. You don't want to miss the next revelations. Jason Robards almost lost his role to illness. Jason Robards' portrayal of Ben Bradlee earned him an Oscar. But what audiences don't know is how close the role came to vanishing. Robards was battling pneumonia when filming began. Doctors warned he might not withstand the grueling shoot. Pakula considered recasting. Warren Beatty's name even floated in early talks. Robards, stubborn to the bone, refused to back down. Crew members recall him staggering through call sheets, coughing between takes, but nailing Bradlee's trademark gravel and authority. At one point, he collapsed during a late-night shoot, forcing production to halt until he regained strength. It wasn't method acting, but it looked like it. Robards' raspy voice, his drained physicality, mirrored Bradlee's exhaustion from the real Watergate saga. When he accepted the Oscar, few knew the performance was forged not just by talent, but by illness fought off with sheer will. Not just acting, but survival on celluloid. The editors built suspense from silence. Most thrillers rely on music. All the President's Men relied on nothing. Composer David Shire delivered a minimalist score, but the true suspense came from silence. Pakula insisted the sound editors treat silence like a weapon. When Woodward dials phones, when Bernstein knocks on doors, there's no swelling strings, only the terrifying emptiness of waiting. Crews layered in the hum of fluorescent lights, the tick of clocks, the scratch of pens. Call sheets describe entire days dedicated to recording office silence. The result? A film that feels more dangerous in its quiet moments than in its revelations. Silence wasn't absence, it was tension, not emptiness, but pressure. The sound design turned mundane noise into dread, reflecting the paranoia of sources who feared the slightest slip could ruin them. Audiences leaned forward, straining to hear. In that strain, suspense was born. What wasn't said became more terrifying than what was. Bernstein's girlfriend scenes were cut after bitter disputes. Not everything survived Pakula's editing room. Carl Bernstein, ever the charmer, had a romantic subplot in early drafts. Screenwriter William Goldman fought to include scenes showing Bernstein's chaotic love life, even shooting sequences with actress Meredith Baxter. But when dailies came back, Pakula shut them down. The reason? Tone. Romance would undercut the suffocating pressure of the Watergate investigation. Redford agreed, but Hoffman fumed. He argued it humanized Bernstein, showing how obsession with reporting wrecked personal relationships. The dispute grew so heated that, according to crew notes, Hoffman refused to show up for a rehearsal until Pakula promised to reconsider. In the end, the scenes were axed. What remained was pure journalism, stripped of romance, but the decision left scars. Hoffman later admitted in interviews he never fully forgave Pakula for gutting those moments. What audiences saw was tight, controlled suspense. What they didn't see was an entire subplot carved out with surgical precision. Redford and Hoffman reshot an entire scene over a single word. Tension didn't only exist between characters, it existed between stars. In one sequence, Woodward and Bernstein debate whether a source is reliable. Redford wanted the line delivered as, "We can't print it yet." Hoffman insisted it should be, "We can't use it yet." The nuance mattered. Print was literal. Use was journalistic shorthand. They argued for hours. Crew members grew restless. Pakula, notorious for patience, let cameras roll through take after take, refusing to settle. By the end of the night, they had shot more than 40 versions. The final cut? Hoffman's version stayed. The scene feels tossed off, casual. In reality, it was born of obsessive precision, two actors wrestling over authenticity. The irony is that the fight mirrored Woodward and Bernstein themselves, reporters who obsessed over phrasing, terrified of printing the wrong word, not just art imitating life. It was life bleeding into the script. The library scene took 9 days to shoot. Audiences remember it. Woodward and Bernstein buried in endless stacks of slips, pulling names from the Library of Congress. What feels like a quick montage actually consumed 9 brutal days of production. Pakula's demand? Real slips, real research. Production assistants filled thousands of cards with fabricated names, addresses, and phone numbers. The cards were shuffled daily, forcing Hoffman and Redford to dig as if they were real reporters piecing together a puzzle. Cinematographer Gordon Willis, nicknamed the Prince of Darkness for his shadow-heavy style, pushed the camera higher each day until the reporters appeared, swallowed by an ocean of paper. Crew members described lugging crates of index cards up scaffolds, only to dump them in precise patterns to match Pakula's vision. The scene's impact is lasting. It captures not excitement, but the crushing monotony of reporting. Viewers feel the weight of futility. That weight was real, borne by cast and crew across 9 endless days. The ending was rebuilt in the editing room.